Today we're talking about multiplying radicals. So the first step for multiplying radicals is that you need to multiply the coefficients. After you multiply the coefficients, you're going to multiply the radicands using the product rule. And what that is when you have the square root of a times the square root of b, you're taking the square root of a times b. Okay, and then you're going to simplify your resulting radical. So to show you what that looks like, the first one right here, okay, with our square root of 8, we have a coefficient of 1 in front of that. So you have 1 times negative 3. 1 times negative 3 is negative 3. And then you take the inside stuff under the radical and multiply them. 8 times 2 is 16, so we have the square root of 16. So we have negative 3 times the square root of 16. But we can simplify this. The square root of 16 is equal to 4, so you have a negative 3 times 4, which happens to equal negative 12. Easy enough, right? For number 2, same idea. Our coefficient here is 1, and this one's negative 1. So we're going to start by multiplying our coefficients. 1 times negative 1 is a negative 1, and I can just put that negative sign. I'm going to put my radical. 3 times 2 is 6. And I know that 6 cannot be simplified because there are no perfect squares that go into that. So that's our answer. For number 3, we have some numbers that actually have a number outside in front. So we're going to go ahead and start by multiplying what's outside. So 5 times negative 7, that's negative 35. And then I'm going to write my radical and do 10 times 12, whatever's on the underside. So 10 times 12 is 120. So now this can be simplified. In my list of perfect squares, you know when you list those out and you try all of them, you should see that 4 works. So you should have this times the square root of 4 times the square root of 30. And then you can simplify this to 2, and negative 35 times 2 is negative 70. And then just bring down the square root of 30 because that can't be simplified. And that's your answer. So apply that to number 4. For number 4, you should have done negative 4 times 2, which is negative 8. And then 14 times 8, which is 112. The largest perfect square that goes into 112 is going to be 16. And then 7. And then this becomes 4. Negative 8 times 4 is negative 32. Square root of 7. All right, so make sure when you're doing number 5 that we recall the rules about multiplying with exponents. Remember, when we multiply our exponents, that means we're actually adding them. So when we go ahead and multiply this, we have 4 times 1, which is 4. And then we're going to multiply our coefficient. 6 times 6 is 36. And then 2 plus 1 is 3. So now when I simplify this, I'm going to have my 2 radicals. Okay, 36 is a perfect square, so I'm going to keep that on the left. And enter the third, that 3 is not easily divisible by 2. So I'm going to subtract 1, put the 1 extra here, put the 2 there. I can go ahead and simplify this. The square root of 36 is 6, and 6 times 4 is 24. And then 2 divided by 2 is 1. And then you just bring down the square root of n. Try 6. For 6, you should have had negative 15 when you multiplied negative 5 times 3. And then 20 times 15 is 300. X times x is x squared. Go ahead and simplify that farther. The largest perfect square that goes into there is 100, and 100 times 3 is 300. X squared is a perfect square, so I go ahead and put that under this radical. And when I simplify, I get 10 for the square root of 100. Negative 15 times 10 is negative 150. 2 divided by 2 is 1. Bring down the square root of 3. For number 7, we're going to go ahead and do, again, what's at the beginning. So 2 times 1, that's 2. And then you're doing 15 times 3, and 15 times 3 is 45. And then make sure you're adding your exponents. 3 plus 4 is 7. So go ahead and simplify this. And the biggest perfect square that goes into 45 evenly is 9. And 9 times 5 is 45. Now 7, you can't divide that by 2, so we're going to bring down w to the 6th and put an extra w. I can go ahead and simplify this. The square root of 9 is 3. 2 times 3 is 6. 6 divided by 2 is 3. And bring down the square root of 5w. Try 8. When you go ahead and solve this, you should get 7 times negative 2 is negative 14. Square roots of 12 times 6, which is 72. And then 3 plus 1 is 4. Okay, now the biggest square root that goes into this is going to be 36. And then 8 to the 4th is a perfect square, so I'm going to go ahead and put that under the left side. I can go ahead and simplify this and do 6 times negative 14, which is negative 84, a squared, square roots of 2. So now on number 9, you need to make sure you're watching the order of operations. Remember, your order of operations are your grouping, their exponents, multiplication, division from left to right, and addition, subtraction from left to right. So I'm going to start with my multiplication here. I'm going to do 10 times 3 to get 30, 2 times 10 to get 20, and then minus my 6 square roots of 5. Now I need to go ahead and simplify this so I can do the subtraction next. So square root of 20 can be simplified, and I know that 4 times 5 is 20. So I'm going to do square root of 4, square root of 5, minus 6 square roots of 5. The square root of 4 is 2. 30 times 2 is 60. 60 square roots of 5 minus 6 square roots of 5. And when you do 60 minus 6, remember, the square root of 5 stays the same. You do not touch that. It stays the same. 60 minus 6 is 54, and then just bring down the square root of 5. Try 10. All right, for 10, you should be multiplying these first. So when you do that, you're going to bring down the beginning part and then do plus, and when you multiply this, you get 24 x to the 6th. Okay, and then I can go ahead and simplify this. So I'm going to bring down the rest. I don't want to forget about anything, so I'm going to keep bringing it down. And the biggest perfect square that goes into 24 is going to be 4 and 6. And then x to the 6th, that's an even number, so I'm going to put that under here. The square root of 4 is 2. And then x to the 6th, the square root of that, 6 divided by 2 is 3. Bring down the square root of 6. Now, x cubed square root of 6, x cubed square root of 6, that is our like term. So all we're doing is taking our 7 plus our 2. And 7 plus 2 is 9, and then we're going to bring down the x cubed square roots of 6, because that is our like term.